Hi, everyone, and welcome to Amplify You, the podcast dedicated to connecting the dots between industry best practices and resources you can bring back to your agency today. I'm your host, Caitlin Agar, Head of Learning and Development for Indium, and one of the many content contributors working to bring the future of professional development to the insurance industry. At Amplify You, we believe in the power of collaboration and the strength of collective intelligence. That's why we crowdsource our content, tapping into the experiences and insights of insurance agency owners like you, and why we created this platform to amplify the voices of thought leaders who are shaping the future of the insurance landscape. Join us as we unlock the strategies to help you build the team and lifestyle you want. This podcast is your gateway to discovering new opportunities and thinking independently together. Welcome to Amplify You, where training will get you where trying can't. Let's dive in. Hi, Brett. Thanks for joining us today.
How are you?
Doing fantastic, and always looking forward to talking shop with you. You're doing so many great things at Erb and Young. How's life in sunny Florida today?
Sunny Florida.
Is it sunny?
It is sunny today, thank goodness. We had a little cold front, but it's good.
It's a win, and thanks for squeezing me in. I know you have had an action-packed day. You guys are working on new software for your organization and new automation, and you have a meeting right after this with people that have come in town to visit with you, and I know that being the CEO of the organization probably keeps you pretty busy.
It's fun, man. I texted the guys last night because I have two partners who I love very dearly, and they said, "How you doing?" I think one of them said, "How you doing?" to both of us, and I said, "I'm feeling a little pressure that's disguised as overwhelm. You know, overwhelm is a that's not acceptable, but it's good, man. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. I feel like I'm getting to do what I love to do. It's a dream come true." But at the same time, it's still one of those things that some days, you know, it's a lot. It's good.
Oh, absolutely. I had a chance to meet Taylor and Rob when you guys were in Austin at the One City World Tour, and you guys just have such a stellar team. I imagine you guys have a lot of fun working together. Do those group texts keep you guys up at night? Are your wives like,
All the time. It's so funny. Somebody saw this. I have this is like a hack. You can't see this, but you see the top layers of the pins. So this is, those are all just leadership texts. So each office has their own, deal, and then we have our leadership group, and then I have the partners group. And so I feel like, email's like the old thing now. It's like these, it's like, can you organize all your group texts? It's crazy.
It's always pinging, I'm sure. You guys have built just an amazing team culture, and we're really excited to hear more about that today. Many of the listeners, I'm positive, I'm just sure, are following you on LinkedIn. If you're not following Brett Young on LinkedIn yet, you need to. You need to follow Erb and Young. They're up to amazing things. And a lot of people listening have probably heard one of your keynotes and heard some of what you have to say. But if you're listening and this is your first time getting to know Brett, stay tuned because he's full of great ideas for how we can make the insurance space even more profitable for insurance agency owners. And he just puts so much work into creating a great entrepreneurship opportunity for the people that they work with. And you guys are really intentional about your culture, Brett. Can you just tell us a little bit about your organization and what makes you guys so special?
I mean, I don't, that's a tough one for me to answer because I'm biased, but I think,
get to be biased this time.
Yeah, right. I think, man, it's a tough one. I think we're so much more focused on personal development and giving people tools to succeed in life versus insurance. And I think that is just genuine to the three of us, Taylor, Rod, myself, with why we started the organization and what we love to do. That I think that's the ultimate filter that creates a lot of the cool stuff that we're doing. We established our ecosystem, which anybody that's running an organization, I would highly recommend this. We had a consultant that came in, 7, 8 years ago. And one of the things that he went through was to define who your stakeholders are within your organization. And those stakeholders were defined as you have the insurance carriers, you have clients, we have referral partners, and we have team members. And in that ecosystem, it obviously flows in a certain way. And so we defined that a long time ago, and team members were always first. And so, because that in that sequence of importance really defines how you filter decision making and what is your priority and what's important and how you prioritize things. And I think just based upon the three of us and the fact that we align on that, and the fact that we've been so definitive on where we sit, it helps really create a cool culture that people feel supported. So I can't tell you how many clients we fired. I can't tell you how many phone calls that just didn't end well in regards to, we're going to side with the team member almost every single time. And, what we do, people get beat up, man. They get beat up, and it's not always fun. It's a tough business. And so, this idea of the customer's always right, I never understood it, because what you're doing is basically saying, I'm going to invest my time and my life to come work for you, but you value the money that the customer gives you over my loyalty as your team member. And that never sat well with me, ever. And so that couldn't be further from the truth inside our walls. We're very vocal about that. There have been many times where I will take a call and put it on speakerphone, and I'll fire a client in front of the whole office. We have an open office, and I'll do it on purpose because I want people to know that, leadership has, and I'll do it respectfully, of course, right? That it's not an ego involved, but I'll do it respectfully. But I think it's important because it shows loyalty. It shows that leadership genuinely does put the priority over the team members that have decided to put their livelihoods, on the bus. And I think, so I think that's I think maybe that's the biggest differentiator is just we've created a really cool culture of loyalty and commitment and team that I think stems from that prioritization.
I'm sure they feel that. And one of the things that you said that stood out to me is that you believe in creating extraordinary humans and not just good insurance agents. So
Yeah.
where did that come from?
So that's a great question. So we rebranded, and I forget when it was, but through that process, it was always the idea is that we're a personal development company that happens to sell insurance, right? Like before we got into the insurance business, we were doing some other business propositions that were all firmly rooted in personal development. And somebody changed my life when they handed me a book called The Slight Edge. And I was searching for something, but I didn't necessarily know what it was. And somebody it gave me that book, and it kind of totally changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm fortunate enough to have two business partners that can echo very similar stories. And so we always thought that the business is the vehicle to allow us to make an impact, allow us to create, abundance for ourselves, selfishly at first. And then if we can create abundance for ourselves and create a system and a process where we can create, then we can show other people how to do the same thing. And through that process, we could have something that could make a big impact. So yeah, we talk about in here a lot about not just, creating good insurance agents, but creating good humans, like creating good people. So probably 95% of the stuff that we focus on from a leadership and an educational standpoint really has nothing to do with insurance. It has to do with just emotional intelligence. It has to do with communication. It has to do with relationships. It has to do with just customer experience. It has to do with conflict resolution. It has to do with psychology. It has to do with, physiology. All these different things that are kind of the whole nuts and bolts to the achievement body. I feel like if you get those things right and you've become a more well-rounded human being, the insurance piece is really easy. But, the industry says if you just take more CEs and if you just become more of a better insurance or a better insurance agent, well, inherently, because you're a better professional, you'll just be a better person. And it doesn't work that way. Like we have it backwards. Like you're trying to teach people how to have an insurance conversation on how to close business more. or how to de-escalate an insurance cancellation that just happened. And you could take someone who's a well-rounded human being that has etiquette, that has empathy, that can relate to people, if they were just raised by great parents, and they immediately take that situation and they can handle it in a way that you never trained them at all, and boom, they're able to handle it in a different way, versus somebody that you could tell them exactly what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and it doesn't go the same. And that's because there's just so many derivatives of the way a conversation can go. It's very difficult to train people exactly how to do it. So in here we train, it's how to do the house. We call it philosophy. And the way that we describe philosophy would be what you believe, then how you hold that belief, and then how it affects what you do. So all of us have philosophies in everything that we do in life, right? My philosophy is this chair is going to be fine. I'm not worried about this chair falling over. My belief and how I hold it impacts my actions. I don't need to worry about falling over on the desk. So there's a huge need to go back to the philosophies that a person has and try to implant the right philosophy, because if we can get that right, inherently that's going to impact the actions. So the hows is what most people focus on with training, and the majority of what we focus on in training is how to do the hows. It's proper philosophy, the way that you think, the beliefs that you have, the beliefs that aren't accurate. There's just a story in your head, so unpacking those and trying to get really clear on, what those philosophies are that we hold, that we believe are that help us and that are serving to us and are serving to the team, and then driving those through the organization.
So in the spirit of getting the philosophy right, I'm curious, what have you seen are some limiting beliefs that could stop holding us back if we could just get the right philosophy in our mind instead?
Man, the biggest one is I'm not worthy. That's the biggest one. That's at the core of everything,
I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy. That's, and I battle with that still to this day. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty decently successful professional, at least at this point. And I battle with that on a weekly basis. So it's not biased to where you are in your journey. But especially when somebody's brand new to a space, especially like a new sales professional, they don't believe that they're worthy of closing a big deal. They don't believe they're worthy of talking to somebody that's affluent and getting all of their business. There's this story playing in people's head, or, hey, I'm not safe. They were fired at the last 2 jobs, or they're recording all of their phone calls from all the client communications. And we bought a business out in Melbourne, and they had cameras in all the rooms watching the employee. I mean, it's just like, talk about
like
a limiting
show.
like a belief, I'm not safe. I'm not free to be me here, so there's a lot of limiting beliefs that all of us just have as human beings that I think inherently affect our ability to be proficient or successful at whatever craft we're trying to, articulate.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that your organization puts a huge focus on the soft skills, the communication skills that go into being great at connecting with people and actively listening and being able to have a meaningful conversation that's not just scripted. And you touched on some of the ways that you guys go about that. What has your team's experience been? What's their feedback to you? What does your team say about that different approach on training and coaching within the organization? Has anyone said to you hey, Brett, this is different from where I came before? Do they love it? Do they hate it? Is it, what do they think about working in a place that takes that angle to grow?
Everybody wants the answers. Everybody thinks that they want the answer. If you'll just tell me how to do it, I'll do it. Just tell me exactly what I need to do, and I'll do it. And the answer is no, you won't. You won't do it that way. Exactly what to do when it comes to just getting on a treadmill and walking every single day to be healthy, but you won't do it. It's not true. It's because the belief system that you have is blocking the actual action. So to answer your question, most people get a little frustrated. They don't understand. They're because you have to slow down the process, right? It's like we come in, we tell you exactly what to do. Here you go. Here's a phone. It's like we want to speed up the process as employers or as operators, because we're like, people don't train. They don't take the time. They onboard them and then they're done, right? Because it's like, I'm on to the next thing. I'm putting out 3 different fire drills. But I think proper training is an ongoing thing, number one, because philosophies don't change overnight. You can't watch a video series on, becoming an Erb and Young agent and get the proper philosophies. You've got to go through the experience. So one of the things that we train is a philosophy is that there are different types of knowledge, right? The first types of knowledge is book knowledge. You have to have the book knowledge. Okay. You have to have the learn knowledge. You have to study the book. You have to learn from the mentor. You have to watch the course. You have to read. You have to go through the learn information, right? But then you can't just learn it. You have to go through activity. You have to go take what you've learned and you've got to go get your butt kicked, right? You learn how to, perform soft skills, and then you got to get on the phone with an upset customer, right? And then you're like, oh shit, that was a lot harder than I expected. So what happens? You get your butt kicked. Well, what do? You go back to the learn knowledge, right? So you toggle back and forth over and over and over again, right? So learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge. And once you've gotten proficient in that, what you're looking for at that point is while you're doing that, you're trying to find a mentor so you can model knowledge. That's modeling. Hey, they're good at this. Why don't I look and see what they do? I'll model it. And then once you toggle back and forth while you're modeling, you become the teacher. And then you have teaching knowledge. And we all know that if you teach something, you learn way more than you did when you were actually doing the thing. So that's a philosophy. That's a blueprint that puts people at ease, that says, okay, you know what? I'm not going to get this right away. Or if you, just because I give you a philosophy like that you could determine the size of somebody's paycheck by the size of the problems that they're able to solve. Like, that's a philosophy that says, okay, the problems are a good thing, because the bigger the problem that I can handle and the bigger the problem that I can fix and that I can resolve, that makes me more valuable, which gives me what I'm looking for, right? Whereas most of us go home at night and we complain about our problems and we wish we didn't have any problems. Well, that's a bad philosophy. That's a story that says problems are bad, right? Like, so how do you swap that with a brand new person? It doesn't happen immediately and it doesn't happen overnight, but through repetition, through learn knowledge, and then they activity knowledge, learn knowledge, then they solve a big problem. Maybe they get a promotion. Maybe you reward them. Maybe you acknowledge them in front of their peers, right? Here's another philosophy. People work harder for recognition than they do for money. I don't care. Anybody says, oh, well, I'm a money guy. Yeah, you do, but you probably like the money because it rewards you and you get recognition from your spouse that you got a bonus. Like, people want to be recognized. So if you reward that type of behavior, that's positive reinforcement. And then you have a conversation with them and say, hey, look, do you see what just happened here? Boom. Now you recognize that problems aren't a bad thing. Problems are a good thing. So there's a challenge there because it takes longer. But if you get it right, you can make a massive impact on somebody.
You can make a massive impact. And I love how you've taken adult learning theory and just distilled it into 4 easy steps that anyone can understand and figure out like where they are in the process.
Yeah. And almost everything that I talk to you about, by the way, I want to be very clear, is I took it from somebody else. I modeled it from, it's the same process. Like, it's modeling knowledge. Like, I've borrowed it from other people. So majority of everything, here's another philosophy. It's okay to be a copycat as long as you copy the right cat, right? Like, that was taught to me when I was going through the ranks. It's like, hey, look, you don't have to figure everything out. Like, you can just borrow from people that have already done it. And I think that takes a lot of pressure too off. It's like, like, you don't have to be a mad scientist. No one gives you props for coming up with all these things on your own. It's the practicality of being a good executor in which that matters, not necessarily whether you dreamed up these things in a lab or not. So I want to give a disclaimer. I'm a really good, I'm a thief. I'm a great thief. So
it's a higher level of learning, Brett. So, give yourself a pat on the back. So, and in the process that you just described of like book knowledge, activity, go back to the book knowledge. Do you ever see someone get stuck in an activity loop where they're just like, pushing, and they need to go back and refill their cup and go to their resources and go back to the drawing board and remind themselves the step that
Yeah.
Have
All
you
the
seen
time.
this happen?
All the time. It's like, so our three pillars of success inside Erb and Young are three things. It's personal development, which is number one, right? Like, so that's the book knowledge. And then it's activity, and then it's showing up. So showing up, activity, and personal development, right? You have to show up. If you're not showing up, if you're not on time, you're not prepared, you don't have the right mindset when you show up, you're not going to win. Then you have to do the thing. You have to swing the axe. Like the tree isn't going to chop itself. Like you have to you have to swing the axe. But then the last piece is you probably have a dull axe, right? You haven't sharpened the axe, which is the personal development part. So people will just beat the tree and they do the sales call, they do the marketing call, and it's not working for them. And you'll sit down with them and they'll just be frustrated. And you'll be like, well, okay, let's go back to the three pillars of success, is what we call it. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? How are you showing up? But you can't use 7. Give me 1 to 10, but you can't use 7. And do that because everybody wants to use 7 because it's a cop out. If they're a 6, they know they're underperforming. If they're an 8, then they're doing pretty well, but they're probably not going to give you an 8 because they feel bad because they know that that's probably they're not being truthful. But how are you on 1 to 10? They'll give you an answer. Okay, how are you 1 to 10 with activity? Well, man, I'm in the field all the time. I'm doing the deal. You see my calls, you see my reps. I'm doing it. You're right. I do see that. Okay, so you're an 8 or a 9. Perfect. What about personal development? Oh, well, I'm not reading right now. I'm not doing that. I should, but I'm not. It's like, well, there you go. We've just diagnosed the problem, right? Like you're stuck in the activity and you're not toggling back to the learned knowledge. How do you expect growth to happen? If I continue to do the same thing that doesn't work over and over and over again, I'm not going to get better results. Here's another philosophy. I'm either not doing something right or I'm not doing something enough. It's only two things. So if I'm doing something and I'm doing it enough, then it's very likely that I'm not doing it right. And the only way to get that is to go back to the learned knowledge.
I think sometimes in sales, it's tempting to keep using the same tools and not figuring out how to put more tools in your toolbox. So if you just give someone a hammer, it's really great if you need to like put a picture frame together or, put some nails in a board somewhere. But that's what a hammer's for. And if you try to use a hammer for something a hammer isn't designed to do, you're going to be really frustrated. You're going to put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and have gotten nowhere. And so I see training and development as this opportunity to help them figure out what tools they don't have that they need to put in their toolkit so that when they find themselves in that conversation or they have that opportunity in front of them where timing and opportunity just merged and now you just have to have the right tool to make sure that they're ready and prepared.
Yeah, true. It's great perspective. Yep, it's great perspective.
Is this what your training and coaching looked like when you started in insurance? Because, I mean, you've been in insurance for a long time, Britt. You worked for other agencies before you were part of Erb and Young. Did you have a mentor and a coach that put you through this type of training and philosophy, or was it different in your experience when you were getting started and trying to figure things out?
Yeah, so I kind of had a cheat code and an advantage, which I didn't have a mentor in insurance. I didn't have anybody that was super successful that kind of took me under their wing. I just never had that, which I think was actually a good thing. And then now I try to borrow from a lot of different people, and that's different now. But early on, I didn't. But luckily, I was in the network marketing space before I got into the insurance business, and I was working with an insurance product. But I was around some of the best network marketers in the world, and they are some of the best training and development people ever because they're leading tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are voluntarily signing up to be a sales organization. So the psychology and the level of leadership at the top level of that stuff to motivate, empower, and train people on a part-time basis that are doing this is the best I've ever seen out of any industry. It's not even close. You can take the top executives in the insurance business, and they, in my humble opinion, they do not even come close to how proficient in leadership and development and motivation that I've seen from working with some of those mentors. One of those gentlemen was Jeff Olson. He's grown multiple billion-dollar sales organizations, and that's who we learned from. And he's the gentleman who wrote The Slight Edge, and the how to do the hows, like, right, the philosophy training. That's all the stuff that we got from him learning under under his leadership and under his mentorship, and under his direction and under his philosophies. And I think that applied to insurance is what has made the difference with Erb and Young, because we came from a completely different lens point of, what is going to get people excited to get up to go to work if they weren't getting a paycheck. Like, if they weren't getting paid, what would get them up in the morning and have them just fired up to come in? And then if you can answer those questions, now you have something that's, because that's what I did. Me and my partner Roder, we built sales organizations all across the country, and you're learning those skills, you're learning those habits, you're learning those methodologies on how to connect with people and motivate and train and develop and get them to buy in. And so when you take that to a situation where now you're paying somebody a paycheck, it seems easy. It just seems very easy. It's like, well, this is like cheating, So the mentorship and the training that we had came from how to lead a voluntary army. And then that transitioned into the team building side from an insurance perspective. But we could have done anything. I mean, insurance is one of them, and it was the easiest thing because we were working with an insurance product. But I think anything from a sales and marketing standpoint, it's all the same thing. It's a widget.
I'm curious what that looks like for your sales training. I've been in sales for a long time, and my experience has been that in a lot of different environments, sales training is often pretty grassroots, even if you're not in insurance. If you are in retail, if you sell tech software, a lot of the training experience for someone who comes into a sales role is to maybe job shadow someone else. Maybe they're given a phone and a list and they're told to figure it out. How do we do better? How do we take what's good about grassroots training and not lose it, but provide more support to people who are trying to learn a new career?
So I'm going to come back to it. I think there needs to be learned knowledge, and then the grassroots training needs to be the activity. Like, I think people should have people with them in the beginning stages when they're doing the activity, right? You should learn how to do something. You should learn the philosophy. You should learn the why behind the what. You should learn why it's different. You should learn all the context that comes from that. And then when it's time to go make the call, or when it's time to walk into the office, when it's time to take execute the endorsement, when it's time to generate the 90-day out renewal call, whatever it is, you should have somebody with you. Like, that's the grassroots training, right? And then debrief after the call. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, how'd that go? Oh, that. And so I still think that's the most effective way to learn, and that's why we all do it, because it's the fastest way to get somebody trained. The problem is it's not scalable. You only can do that so many times. And so what we do is we limit ourselves to growing a small business, a small agency, because it's limited by how much we can do, right? Like, we think we're the Michael Jordan of our business, and that's one of the biggest mistakes you can possibly make, right? Like, you have to create something that can move away from you, not that moves towards you. So I think if we do a good job of creating like modular video, step-by-step learn knowledge, and then have people go do the activity, and only give them enough to where they're ready to go do the activity. Then once they've done the activity proficiently, we've measured it, that they're ready, go back to the learn knowledge, different skill set, different level, do the learn knowledge, then give them an assignment, go do the activity. They've got somebody with them that's helping them, that's coaching them, that grassroots on the job training. And if we toggle back and forth, stair-stepping our way at least to the point 90 days where someone is now feels good about all the aspects of what they're doing, I think that's a completely different experience than if we just sat next to somebody for 30 days and after we think they kind of got it, we're off to the next person,
That's a completely different experience. What would you...
And we don't have it right. We're doing it right now. We're building that out as we speak. And I think it's tough if you have a smaller agency, you're like, man, that's not even on my radar. But at some point, it will be on your radar. At some point, it will be on your radar. And there are other resources that you can tap in. You don't have to build it on your own. Like, there are other stuff out there that you can just purchase and tap into. But if you begin with the end in mind, right, that's another philosophy. If you begin with the end in mind, knowing that that's going to be a thing, the problem is if you train 2 or 3 people one way and now all of a sudden you want to switch it, you're going to have a culture that's divided. You're going to have a culture that's constrained because you're going to have the old way, and then you're going to have the new way. And if you talk to every agency owner, they've always said, well, yeah, I've got, I have John. John's been here for 25 years. This is the way John does it. I can't get him to change this new process because he's always done it this way. And so everybody operates the new way except for John because, John's the oldest employee. He's been here forever, and he just won't change. And he can do a lot of work, so we don't really mess with him. And it's like, man, is that the best way to do it? Like, I don't know.
And so it sounds like you're, by beginning with the end in mind, working on building in like a continuous feedback loop and ways that people don't expect things to stay the same all of the time. You're going to try something and then talk about it and figure out what's working and implement positive changes where it's needed so that your strategies keep getting stronger over time instead of staying stagnant. So that's wise.
I'd love the idea of like being able to put like pods, like 2 or 3 people that are running at the same clip, right? And then they get to collaborate, whether it's a Telegram group or a Teams chat or, a Slack, where it's like they, it's really fun when 2 or 3 people are going through the same experience together and they're kind of peers because they share stuff, right? They interact with stuff. It's a very different relationship between a mentor and a mentee or a trainer and a trainee. Mm-hmm. So I love that continuous feedback loop of being able to be able to put people in environments where they can share openly and share freely and learn from each other's experiences. I know that's how I learn. That's how I like to learn, So
true. And with that in mind, when you think about Tori's journey, what do you think are some of the things that Tori got right? And maybe just catch us up to speed on how Tori started with you guys, where he is now.
Yeah, so Tori is our newest independent operator. So he is the majority owner of his agency out in Tampa under the Erb and Young brand. Which is super cool, giving him the opportunity to create something for himself inside of a framework that already exists. Which is really cool. But he was I think he was like the second employee at Erb and Young. And he started from, the smallest admin work to servicing to then doing a servicing and sales assistant, then getting a sales gig, then graduating to that, then being the top producer, and then he was a team lead of our largest office. And then from there, he said, "Man, what would this look like if I went and did this thing and enterprised an office for myself?" And so that's where he sits today. But I think what Tori got right, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Tori and his journey, and the reason why is because, Tori, he's a sponge, and what Tori does better than anybody else is he models people. Like he finds somebody who's doing well, and then he takes the bits and pieces that he likes from it and he makes it his own. And to me, I think that's a cheat code, right? It comes back to that same learn knowledge, activity knowledge, modeling knowledge. And he's still doing that to this day, right? Like he's learning these new muscles when he's out on his own right now. And so he's learning from the other independent operators that we have, Matt and St. Pete. We've got Nick and Jupiter, right? So we have a group text, and they're collaborating and they're sharing ideas, and he's modeling from each one of them of what they're doing and vice versa. So Tori's a special dude. He's just a great human, but I just like his journey because he was never looking to do that. He was never an entrepreneur minded type of person. He's just somebody who bought into the culture of, creating extraordinary lives and knowing that, hey man, I'm in an environment where I can reach for more, and it's okay for me to reach for more. And by, self-actualizing, as Maslow said it, I'm creating an experience for myself and for others that, is going to make an impact not only on what I'm doing, but also, maybe spark something in somebody else to do that. And he's done that. And now there's people trying to follow his footsteps. So it's really cool to watch the path from somebody who, maybe didn't necessarily know what they wanted to do, but through the process of personal development, has kind of blossomed into this, achiever, which is really cool.
He is a high achiever, but it sounds like he's spent a lot of time over the past several years getting to that place. If you had him starting with admin work, and I think sometimes people can get comfortable, they can get discouraged, they can have limiting beliefs, and having someone come alongside them and show them what's possible and give them the tools to grow is huge. And I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say about Tori, probably more than anybody that I've worked with, there is nobody that's read more personal development than Tori.
Really?
He's curious.
Mhm.
He's just, he just eats books. He bought into this concept of, and he didn't read one personal development book before he started working here, ever, none, zero. And he read The Slight Edge because that's what everybody gets when they come on board. And it's the idea and the concept, if I do a simple thing, simple little things compounded over a lifetime create success or failure, right? There are no quantum leaps in life. And he just ate books all the time and was so curious and was a student. And because of that, he became a proficient insurance agent. He wasn't studying, the things that everybody else was studying outside in the industry. He was studying the stuff that makes you a more complete, just more connective human being. And that's the business we're in. We're in the business with connecting with people and solving problems and taking the burden off of the person that we're working with, solving the issue and being able to communicate it effectively. Like that to me has nothing to do with insurance. It's nothing. It doesn't matter if I'm selling an auto part or if I'm selling a professional liability policy that is super complicated. At the end of the day, the client is still looking for the exact same thing, and those skills are just so undervalued, in my opinion, in the service team and the sales force. And we put such an emphasis on the I shouldn't say tactical, but the policy language stuff that we put an emphasis on, that I think it's to our own detriment. I think it's to people's progressive detriment, right? Like he's become a different person because of that dive, and it's transformed his life. If we were to give him all the information that he needs to know and study, the policy language that he needs to study, that wouldn't have changed his life. That wouldn't have changed our organization. That wouldn't have grown our team. That wouldn't have, it would have, we would have been great insurance agents, but that's it. And I think everybody that's listening to this, that's an agency owner or that's got into the business, everybody's looking for the same thing. You're looking to you're looking to improve your life. You're looking to enhance your life, like strip it all down. And the way that we do that, in my opinion, is by getting to the root of what causes growth, which, in my opinion, is personal development.
Absolutely. And Erb and Young is at this exciting point in your organization's history where you're now partnering with independent operators to give them an amazing opportunity and provide a lot of support for them as they grow as entrepreneurs. What do you want your independent operators to say about that experience with Erb and Young 5 years from now?
Oh man, what a question. God, I was lucky to have this opportunity when I had it. Meaning, like what we're doing right now is we're building and we're creating something really special. But a lot of these guys and gals have taken a leap of faith to build it with us, and we're building the aircraft while it's in the air. And so they know that, and I think it's exciting. I think it's exhilarating for the right type of person. So and they're having good success. I mean, they're winning. And so, but at the same time, 5 years from now, I would anticipate that the program will be significantly larger. And there will be a handful of those people that I hope look back and say, man, I feel super grateful and super happy that I was able to participate at the time in which that we participated.
That's so exciting. And kudos to you guys for building something new. When you pan out and you look at the industry, I mean, you talk to agents all the time, Brett. You're super well connected. There's agents that are, their agencies aren't at all tied to Erb and Young, where you have conversations with them, you see them at events. Like, tell me what you see agents are needing right now to be able to grow, to be able to get to that next level. Like, what is it that agents need? Where are these gaps in the industry at large right now that you see as holes that need to be filled?
It's team building.
Okay.
I think it's team building. I think we set out to build an agency instead of a business, and there's this idea that insurance agencies are really that different from everything else, and they're not. They're not. It's a professional service organization that delivers a service to a client. And the same concepts and principles that go from attracting talent, developing them, and retaining them are the same concepts that are present in multiple businesses. And so the number one thing that people have trouble with is finding talent and keeping talent. That's it. That's it. It's number one. If you solve that issue, almost every person that you and I know that runs an agency would have significant growth. But that is the bottleneck. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is that there's just not an emphasis on the craft of creating a compelling reason of why someone wants to come work with you. And it all comes back to the person that goes to the bar and the person that goes to the cathedral on Sunday is looking for the exact same thing. They're looking to enhance their life. And if you could pin down and get clear on why working with you is going to significantly enhance someone's life, you create a magnet. You create this attractiveness of recruiting that, it's just explosive. It's explosive. There's an unlimited amount of business to write. Okay, yeah, you have to be a good marketer, but that's easy. That's an easy part. Marketing is very simple. The sales side, yes, okay, but that's easy. But the highest level of marketing and sales is recruiting. You're trying to get somebody to compel them to change their life and come work with you. It's a change to their whole family dynamic, right? That is the greatest and biggest sale. And we just think that it's going to be off the benefits that we give them. We think it's going to be off the pay that we give them. We think it's because if we give them a laptop and let them work from home, that's going to be something that's going to compel them. No, those are little features and benefits on a brochure. And for some people that'll work, but ask yourself the question, who's going to come work with you and be a crusader? Who's going to carry the sword every day that's going to lead into the fuel, into the fire on a white horse with you, no matter what the cost is? If you have those people in your organization, you're winning. If you don't have those people, then you have to ask yourself, why? Why is that? That's a reciprocation. That is something that you get in return for giving for a very long time, selflessly, to where somebody goes, man, this is special. I'm part of something bigger than myself. This gives me connection to something higher than myself. This gives me a path to unlimited where I can create something that I probably never thought I could do on my own. This gives me connection with other people that's social. There's so many other dynamics that if I could give anything, and man, I'm still on the journey myself, so to understand, but this is the stuff that I absolutely obsess about because I think it's the absolute hack. If you can create a special reason, and everybody's different, it's got to be unique to you as a leader, but if you could create the attraction of what that looks like, of why someone's going to come to work with you, it's going to enhance their life, that's it. You win, because the greatest level of inventory is people. That's the inventory that matters in this business. Until we all are automated with bots, you need people to sell the product and you need people to answer the phone. So you should be a hunter of men and women, right? Every day, if you see people walking around, you shouldn't see the fact that they buy insurance. You should think to yourself, I wonder what they do for a living. And I wonder what would it take for them to come work for me, So I think team building is number one.
That's huge. And it makes all the difference in the world. Because you said robot, I have to, so 3 final questions for you, Brett. What did you ask Chat GPT most recently?
Oh man, I'm embarrassed. I've never asked Chat. I don't even know what that is. Everybody says it. I think it's like Watson on steroids. I think you can ask it anything and it's like wise. I don't know, but I am embarrassed to say I've never asked one thing.
So go ask it what you should train on in your next team meeting. You're welcome.
You go. Perfect.
My 8-year-old daughter, Karis, wants me to ask you, Brett, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food? I like crab legs. I'm a big stone crab person, So you put there's an unlimited amount of those that I will eat. So yeah.
Same. Okay, final question. Is selling a science or an art?
Wow. What a good question. I think selling is a science, connection to people is an art. And you can have both, but they're not binary.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time today, Brett. And just so many things to learn. I hope everyone was taking notes. If not, make sure you grab the video version of this later and just take notes. But I love that you shared with us how to create something that moves away from you and not towards you. That's a completely different way of thinking. And that's what you have accomplished with Tori, with him starting as someone that was doing admin work and then service work and working closely with you guys in sales and moving up the ladder and taking on new opportunities. And now Tori has his own location in Tampa. So you created something that moved a little ways away from you instead of, clutching that thing and stifling its growth. So thank you for the amazing tips. I'm definitely going to have to get a copy of The Slight Edge and dive into that.
I'll send you a copy.
Oh, I would love that.
I'll send you one.
I'll take you up on that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks so much. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode where we give you a taste of what the Amplify You program has in store for you. It's more than just a podcast. It's a comprehensive suite of resources designed to ignite your growth and success in the insurance industry. Get ready to explore our dynamic online learning management system, where you'll find a wealth of valuable courses and modules tailored specifically for insurance agency owners and their teams. We'll also highlight our calendar of virtual training workshops where featured guest experts share their expertise and provide actionable insights. And for those seeking an immersive learning experience, we'll discuss our exciting training boot camps designed to accelerate your progress and build community. The Amplify You program is your one-stop destination for future forward education and resources, and we can't wait to share it with you.